Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We have been reporting on the case styled as EWU Media versus the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department, which boils down to what the petitioner, this is EWU Media, is claiming as being a wrongful denial by the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department for records from the Moscow Police Department and the City of Moscow's files into the crimes at 1122 King Road that occurred on November 13th, 2022 in Moscow, Idaho. And that led to the arrest of Brian C. Kohberger as the sole person ever arrested in connection with these catastrophic events. And although Mr. Kohberger has been behind bars in an Idaho prison since July of 2025, there seems to be, in my opinion, a reluctance to unseal that highly sealed case of Idaho versus Kohberger. We have lots of content on this topic. What's happened since the case was closed is that multiple people have filed public records requests with the City of Moscow, in some cases directly with the Moscow Police Department, for documents from the highly sealed case and other information regarding the investigation leading up to Mr. Kohberger's arrest. And there also seems to be, in my opinion, a reluctance to release some of these records that we've seen other police departments release, such as interrogation videos of a suspect, just like the state of Idaho very willingly released concerning Stacy James Wandra, who is the defendant in Idaho versus Wandra. That case is also an Idaho case of interest. In fact, it's the only other case besides the Kohberger case that you will find on the Idaho Courts of Judicial Interest website. You'll find Wandra and you'll find Kohberger at the trial level. Returning to the matter of EWU Media's public records lawsuit, they are alleging that when they asked for things such as the interrogation video of Mr. Kohberger that was purportedly taken the early morning hours soon after his arrest, December 30th, 2022 at 2 a.m., in which Detective Brett Payne was one of two interrogators. That video has never been seen. If you go to our sister YouTube channel, we've published certain records that were filed this week in support of EWU's position. It is the declaration of Amy James. A declaration is evidence. It is sworn testimony. In this case, from a person, Ms. James, who was involved in trying to get these public records in, for example, preparing, filing, following up on the records request. If you look at page 1, you will see that in the style of the case, there are three parties. EWU Media LLC, a Nevada limited liability company. That is the petitioner. Versus, and here's the two respondents, City of Moscow, Idaho, and Moscow Police Department. So there's three parties. However, if you look at the document, you're going to see the interveners. These are people who petitioned to be allowed into the case, saying that they had a right to be heard, that they had an interest in these proceedings, and they are Karen Laramie, the mother of Madison May Mogan, Stacy Chapin, James Chapin, and Maisie Chapin, the mother, father, and sister of Ethan Chapin. If you were to read the declaration, you will see Ms. James is saying, for example, on page 2, paragraph 3, I was involved in preparing, submitting, and or overseeing EWU's public records request to the city of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department, paragraph 4, page 2, on or about June 30th, 2025. EWU submitted an informal request by email to the Moscow Police Department seeking investigative materials related to the Brian Kohberger case. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, if I could inject a comment, that date of June 30th is notable because that's when the first whispers that Mr. Kohberger was about to change his plea that he would do on July 2nd first started to circulate in the community across the internet. Then paragraph 5, on July 1st, 2025, the Moscow Police Department responded and directed EWU to submit a formal request through the city's public records portal. And then paragraph 6, again, this is page 2, on July 11th, 2025, EWU submitted a formal public records request through the city's portal seeking investigative materials, including but not limited to video recordings, audio recordings, photographs, communications, and other evidentiary materials. A true and correct copy of this request is attached as Exhibit A. And if you go to our sister YouTube channel, you'll see part of Exhibit A and what they're asking for, just as they've stated here, interrogation videos of Mr. Kohberger, for example. Then going on or about July 14th, the city issued a written response denying the request in its entirety, citing a revised amended non-dissemination order in the criminal proceedings. A true and correct copy of this response is attached as Exhibit B. And then it goes on throughout the rest of this declaration to state what happened next. But a key point that I wanted to bring to your attention is that in addition to this initiative by EWU starting June 30th to obtain records from Moscow and the Moscow Police Department that went on for several months, they're making a representation that it costs $20,000 in time, energies, and efforts for EWU to, in the end, unsuccessfully obtain everything that they asked for. We're going to continue to monitor this situation as further developments arise leading up to the May 18th hearing. So please do stay tuned to this Indie Zone podcast. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so. A link to our YouTube channel is in the description to this podcast episode. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you very much for joining us here today.